Hey folks, Gus Tabor here. First, allow me to say thank you to everyone who's watched my videos up to now, and especially those who have commented and really requested this fifth video on the powder horns. I really appreciate that, and kind of finally got off my keister to get around to doing it. Today I'll be talking about engraving your powder horn. Keep in mind that when it comes to engraving, there are thousands of different styles and techniques used by contemporary horn makers and historical horn makers. So really the world is your oyster when it comes to making a powder horn, or when it comes to engraving a powder horn, I should say. So first let's talk about finishing your horn and exactly what look you're going for with that. Many powder horn makers, contemporary, want what you would call a mirror surface on your horn. That is the equivalent of the polished horn that we started with when making this. Starting with the 400, 600, and even working up into the 1000 grit steel, sandpaper, and then working the 4/0 steel wool until that is as perfect a surface as you can possibly get. Other workers will not take it that far. Me personally, I prefer a rougher surface. I feel that when I'm penciling it in and engraving it, I have less likely to skip off or misengrave something. So that is your option. I would strongly suggest you just try your different levels, try your different finishes, and find what works best for you. And this is also very important when it comes to horn working. Try what works for you. There is no right way or wrong way per se. The key components are it holds powder, it's airtight, it's watertight. Anything aesthetic after that, it is art. It is aesthetic. So it's what looks good to you. Let's cover tools now. There are as many tools as there are finishes as there are horn workers. You could use a nail. Sharpen a nail. It works. You could use, and a lot of horn workers do use, an X-Acto knife. This is a number 11 tip. It's been slightly broken off. I've known some that break it off even more. But this works. You're going to get a very fine line off of it. You might have to take more cuts or more passes to get the look you're going for, especially if you're going for a bolder look. But this will do the job. Many professional horn workers utilize this. This is a Coulter Precision Engraver. It is a carbide tip that has been sharpened on an 800 grit diamond wheel. These things are super sharp, very good tools. The one problem I had with it is that it comes to a point, and it's not meant to carve or cut per se, but point. So this would be more used for that stipple work style, you know, to where it's several points to create one picture. However, it does work to scratch in your image. Very good tools. I do use these every once in a while if I am working in a very small, very fine work. But I have found that me personally, and many contemporaries don't believe this, I use a 5-inch boning knife. That is my tool of preference for doing engraving. Now, let me explain real quick. I take the 5-inch boning knife and I wrap it in blue painter's tape. That gives me a little bit more feeling of security around the edge. Maintaining the tip is open. I then take that and I wrap it with a leather piece, keeping only that much of the tip exposed. And as I'm working, I use a steel to keep the edge I need. So those are the tools that are available. They're out there. You can find them just about anywhere. Culture Precision, I do believe, is on Etsy, ETSY.com. Contact them if that's what you're looking for. I think they're like $35. Layout. Simple pencil. Make sure it's sharp. You can use carbon paper and you can trace your images as long as you're sure you're not infringing on any copyright laws. You can use whatever image you want to get and trace it on. Personally, I don't use that. I freehand most of my work, not for any real reason other than that's how I'm comfortable. Use this for a second. This is my practice horn. If I want to try a layout or a design, I usually pencil that in and then engrave it. As you can see, I haven't taken the die off of this one yet, but you can tell the finish is rough still, but that again is how I personally do my work. This one is a little less rough. It's mostly engraved. The center is not as of yet. I am working on engraving that. For me, engraving is not as much fun, I guess you would say. It's not my favorite part of the horn work, and it does take me a lot more time. What you want to remember when you're doing engraving is light strokes. Your hand should not hurt after engraving, right? You gotta just keep that in mind as you're going. It's several light cuts rather than one hard cut. When you're doing those hard cuts, you're on a curved surface. So what's going to happen is you're trying to work, say, up here. You're going to end up coming off of that curve into a different curve, and you're just going to keep right on going, and then you got this big mess to clean up. And easy enough to clean up, yes, but it's the extra pain of having to. If you do find yourself making that kind of mistake, just back off on your tool and just keep it light and make several cuts rather than just one deep cut. Make several light cuts to get that look. So, your workstation. As long as that conforms to the horn. Your horn can sit on it. Yeah. Your horn can sit on it. You have control of it. You can press. It works. Some horn workers use a bag of shot. Some use a bag of rice, a sandbag. A bag of peas, I've heard, works pretty good. I have not tried that myself. Personally, I use a pillow because that's what I have. A blanket, I've used blankets a lot, and that's one of the other preferences. But after you've penciled in your layout, you are happy enough with the layout and the penciling, you can begin engraving. Now, engraving is literally just scratching the surface, right? You're scratching the surface of the horn and creating an area for your ink or dirt even to get in and create a dark area on top of the light area. Now note, when I am working, I'm either turning the horn or I'm moving my hand. You don't want to overextend, especially if you're doing curves like this. You do not want to overextend because that creates even more opportunity for your knife to, or your tool, to get out of control and therefore overcut. So you'll note how I am moving either the horn or my hand, or the horn and my hand in one way or another. That allows me to maintain as much control of the work I'm doing and still be at least satisfied with the finished product. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish engraving this. And engraving for me takes a long time. It usually takes me days, weeks, months. It's whenever I get around to doing it, I'll do it. Because for me, engraving is not the most exciting part. I enjoy it, don't get me wrong. It's just, I like to take my time. I like to make sure I get everything the way I want it. So right now I need to shade all these lines in to match up down here. And I need to engrave this entire center section. Get that done and I'll come back. So, it really does come down to how comfortable you are doing what you're doing and understanding what you and your tool are capable of. You'll notice also that while I'm working, I keep my pinky finger out. All that does is it'll allow me a little bit more feeling of control as I'm working. It may or may not actually be true, but that's how I feel most comfortable working. Just a comfort thing really more than anything, I guess. And also you might note that every once in a while I stop and I'll scratch at the surface with my thumb or a fingernail, and all that does is remove some of the burrs that I create from doing such a curved surface. Lets me see exactly where it really connects versus where it looks like it connects, because you will get burrs, especially when doing a curved surface. Like right there, I don't know if you can actually see it, but you see it's kind of burred. Wipe it down real quick. And then I hit it. And that just lets me know I'm not trying to actually sand it per se right now. I'm just getting a final look at, or a better idea as to what has been done. Now to figure out shading.